Oh, welcome all for this webinar. And we'll be recording this session, and we have a lot of interesting stuff to uncover. And we are really excited and happy that you're joining us for this webinar. My name is Krishna Chodipelli. I'm one of the enterprise coaches who work with Leadership Tribe. And I train Agile coaches. I also work with executive leaders and help organizations with the digital and agile transformation. That's what I do. And when I have an opportunity, I bring all those lessons and we do that and help them to train people. That's what we do. So a little bit about this today's session. So we'll be touch basing a little bit on what Agile coaching is, the role of an Agile coach, and we'll also look at what is an enterprise coach. And as we are going through the journey, what are the things we need to do to learn, to develop, to be at the enterprise level so we can help the organization transform, help them to get better in the ways of working. That's what we'll be looking at today. And we will also have one session as part of this webinar to create a journey plan for you. And that's what we are looking for. So that's at the last part of the session. What are the things you might need to do to become an enterprise coach? What are the things you might need to do to be an Agile coach as well? And how does a transition look like? We'll be touching on those topics. So a little bit about Leadership Tribe. Leadership Tribe works with various organizations with IT, non-IT, and various domains such as financial industry, auditing, insurance, and we work with organizations such as Metro and various organizations with respect to the Agile transformation. And the intent is when we are working with so many organizations, there's so many things we are learning as well. And we want to bring it back to the community. This is our community where we are able to share some of our learnings. At the same time, learn something from you and give it back to the other areas where we work. That's one of the things we do. While we are in Leadership Tribe, we have some amazing coaches we work with. One of them, what we also do is we have one-to-one coaching, mentoring with respect to your career, mentoring with respect to if you're interested to be going towards your leadership role or towards your coaching or towards the enterprise role. We help people in those journeys. On top of that, we also facilitate the organization strategy and help support in the agile and digital transformation. Yes, I have two screens, Nagini, because I can see some chat. At the same time, I can see the camera in front of me. So apologies, I have few screens. I'm trying to look at both the screens. So it doesn't mean that I don't love you enough if I don't look at you, because I'm also looking at your chat window. Thank you. So what is Agile coaching? So can you all type it in the chat window? What is Agile coaching according to you? Type it in the chat window, please. There's no right or wrong answers here. Just type it in, whatever you think. Asking powerful questions, helping the team work using Agile methodology, guiding, okay, helping teams and individuals to adopt the Agile mindset, okay, brilliant. Embrace the Agile culture, be sensitive about change. Agile coach, more focus on team level coaching. Okay, really amazing answers. Anything else to add to it? Coach Agile teams and advise on best practices. Good. Asking the right question to help Agile teams perform work. Okay, brilliant. Let's look at my screen right now is looking jumbled up. How does it look like for you on your screen? Is it looking okay? When you're looking at the scope of agile coaching, it starts with yourself. It's understanding what are the things you can do, what are the things you can't do. If there is something you can't do, there's one thing you can either invest in yourself where you can learn something about it or get some help. So it starts with you first. It starts with you. So once you understand your skills, what are the areas you can improve, then you start working with individuals who are coming together to form a team. So you're also working with programs or business units, or you're also working with the organization at the enterprise level. So it starts with learning how to facilitate those discussions. And there's an element of, okay, you having those powerful discussions. How can we help individuals and teams and business units to get better at their craft? And using those expertise, how can you work at the enterprise level? That's what we are looking at. So this is an agile coaching competency framework created by Lisa Atkins and Michael Spade. So there are different roles we are looking at. First of all, the most important thing for an agile coach is to be an agile lean practitioner. What does it mean? Agile lean practitioner, understanding the mindset, understanding the lean principles. How do you eliminate waste in everything we are doing? So for that, you need to understand what are the practices are involved in working in the new ways of working. Practice such as what are the stand-ups, retrospectives, planning. How do we create an adaptable strategy and evolve as we are moving across? So you need to be a subject matter expert. So if you're a subject matter expert, you will be able to teach people. Teaching when you have a new team members coming to your organization, when they don't have a clue of what am I even doing here. So you will be able to teach them on the new concepts that your teams are working on. Because you're good at your teaching, you are a subject matter expert, you might be able to mentor people. People are already doing some work and need some advice. What are the areas you can get better? I have a question here. I don't know how to work this out. What are the things I can do? So that's mentoring, where you're giving them options where people are able to choose, I can take option A or option B, or I can come up with a new option. And there's an element of professional coaching as well. Professional coaching means you are helping an individual to take them on a journey, and where you strongly believe the individual has all the answers, has all the resources they need to solve the problems. And in that discussions, you are just facilitating that journey and helping them to come up with their own solutions. And there's an element of facilitating. Here, you're playing a neutral role, bringing the groups together for a common goal. Facilitating, you can facilitate daily stand-ups, any meetings, what you're talking about. When we go, how many of you been into meetings and asked yourself, why the hell am I here for? How many of you had those opportunities? You go into a meeting, you think, seriously, what am I even doing here? Type it in the chat room, yes or no. That should be fine. I just want to see how many people have had those opportunities. There are a few yeses. Interesting. So when you're going as a facilitator, there are some tools, there's some practices, there are some frameworks which you can use to help people understand what is the purpose of this meeting, what are the outputs of this meeting, what is in it for me as a facilitator, and the people who are coming into this room, what is in it for them? And what inspires them, what motivates them, what empowers them to be themselves in that room, or if you're facilitating any discussion. And what are the types of tools or strategies I'm going to use to communicate the same to the rest of the audience? And what are my roles and responsibilities as well as a facilitator? So these are the 5 key skills. If you're working in an agile environment, if you want to call yourself a leader in an agile organization, these skills, the top 5 skills, are must and should. There are 3 elements of it as well. It's called the technical mastery. Technical mastery is some people who work in IT, they are very much in, some of them, including me, I came from a DevOps background, understanding about the continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing. And it can be about solution architecture, it can be about technical architecture, it's a mastery of a specific subject. It can be anything. In marketing, teams is about analytics. Business mastery is about looking beyond the curve and seeing what are the things we need to do now to help the organization excel. For any organization, there's one key denominator. It's called the economic value. Economic value means, how do I reduce the cost of my delivery, or how do I get more business in? That's the economic value. That's how the organizations functions. How do we function as well? Because end of the day, if you're not getting a paycheck end of every month, it'll be hard work to work in that organization. And for an organization to build, evolve, moving forward as a leader, you need to understand what are the different kinds of things we need to do to help the organization continuously innovate and get better at their craft. That's business mastery. Transformation mastery is about bringing change. It's about bringing change. So let me ask you a simple question. Why do people change? Out of curiosity, why do people change? Type it in the chat window, please. Why do people change? Pressure to do so, to improve, adapt, excel, fear. Things are not working as expected, to survive, for the better, don't like the current state, to accomplish a purpose, to adapt, opportunity and threat, okay, to grow up, growth, RT survive, change is better, to maximize their potential, competition. Wow, amazing answers. It all distills down to three things. Three things. One is a crisis. Right now, we are in crisis. COVID is happening. We are in crisis. And most of us are working from home. Some of us are. And if there's a fire alarm kicking off right now, do you think I'm going to have this discussion with you? I'll say, sorry, thank you very much, maybe next time, and I'll be out. I'll be out. That's a crisis. If we don't do this now, if we don't fix something now in the organization, we might not be able to survive. So it creates a sense of urgency. It creates a sense of urgency. The next reason is called a threat. A threat. So what we are doing is okay. 6 months from now, if we keep on doing what we're doing, we might not even survive. So we might need to adapt. We might need to pivot from the way we are working. That's a threat. Because of a threat, people do change. And the last one is called an opportunity. An opportunity. By adopting Agile, we can be better, faster, cheaper, healthier in everything we do. That's an opportunity. I have a question for you. In your organization, in the projects which you're working, the projects are either related to a crisis or a threat or an opportunity. Which one is it you're working on right now? Type it in the chat window, please. Let's everyone see what is the current state of our projects. Is it a crisis, threat, or an opportunity? Wow. We are getting a mix answers. That's beautiful. All three. That's normal. That's normal. When we are going through these things, there are different kinds of change frameworks out there. You got the Coach's 8 steps, the XLR8, you got the other change models. There are different kinds of change models which help us to get better in bringing those changes in. That's transformation mastery. For you to call yourself an Agile coach, for you to be calling yourself an Agile coach, must and should, you should be an Agile Lean practitioner. You should be good at your teaching. You'll be mentoring. You should be a professional coach and also good at your facilitating, as well as have one mastery. It can be either technical, business, or transformation mastery. So that would be your call. That would be your call. This is an Agile Coaching Competency Framework. And the most important thing, we understand the competency framework. Brilliant. So where do I start? It starts with you. This is the mindset of an Agile coach or a leader, Agile leader. If you're looking at your values and principles, these are the simple values and principles. You're talking about your openness, trust, courage, respect. These are simple human values. And the principles, always prioritizing your customer or understanding your customer problems, there's 12 simple principles are there. Those are the foundation. If you're not able to have the basics, we can't do nothing. And the basic comes down to your values and principles. And these are called pillars. For me, you can call them a pillar which your house stands on, or they are like little rooms in your apartment or your house, wherever you're living. The first one is about self-awareness, understanding about yourself, understanding about what is your potential, what are the strengths, what is your potential, what are the things you can improve, and understanding from a social context. My actions, how is it impacting with the colleagues or the people I'm working with? If there are something which you want to learn and adapt, that's called self-management. How can I manage myself? How can I work with changing environments? How can I build relationships? It all comes down to you. It's from self. That's where you start with. The next one is called global listening. I have a question for you. Have you been in a meeting, and while you're in a meeting, you're thinking about, did I switch off the lights in the kitchen? Did I lock my door? Did this person send the report out? Have you had those thoughts? A simple yes or no would be okay. Have you had those thoughts when you were in meetings? That's interesting, isn't it? And the other thing as well, when you're in a discussion with your colleagues or your peers or your team members, before you can finish talking, somebody asks a question. Or before somebody finishes talking, you ask a question. When you're asking a question, you have to frame it first in your head. When you're framing it in your head, who are you actually listening to? Are you listening to the person in front of you? Are you listening to yourself? Self or the person in front of you? Who are you listening to? Who are you actually listening to? It's really hard work. It's really hard work to improve the listening. That's called the first level of listening. Level 1 is listening to yourself. Level 2 is called focused listening. It's all about the person in front of you. It's all about you. I'm here for you. So it's all about you. That's level 2. Level 3 is called global listening. Global listening is you're listening to the words which are not being said, the emotions, the body language. You're listening to the environment. That's called global listening. I have a question for you. Which level of listening would really help? Level 1 is for yourself. Level 3 is environmental. Level 2 is all about the person. Which is the most important level of listening? 3, active listening. For you to actively listen, it takes practice. It takes practice because there's so many distractions around you. There are so many distractions around you. Even in some of the family dinners, you see, checking my mobile phone. Yeah. It's hard work. And one of the pillars is called non-violent communication. Non-violent communication means, let me ask you, what do you mean by a non-violent communication in the chat window? Can you type it in, please? What is non-violent according to you? Not offending anybody, silent protest, no aggression. Non-violent communication, it's been written by this Marson Rosenberg. Amazing book, amazing book. I would recommend you to pick one. I have some few recommendation books. Have a look at it at the end of the session as well, or you can reach out to us. Nonviolent communication talks about talking with your emotions, your feelings. Start with your observations. What are you observing? And how is it impacting you? And what is the action you want the other person to take? And how is it going to help moving forward? There's a different ways of talking. So end of the day, having a meaningful conversation in such a way that you're able to deliver some value from both the parties. And the next one is called a leadership stance. A stance is what you are going to do at that moment of time. Let me walk you through this, an example of a stance. You have seen this image before. I've spoken to you about different things an agile coach needs to have, different attributes. Needs to be an agile lean practitioner, teaching, mentoring, professional coaching, and facilitating. You are in the middle of it. You are in the middle of the little mandala around you. So depending on the situation, sometimes you might be teaching. Depending on the situation, sometimes you'll be asking powerful questions so you can tease the information from them. Depending on the situations, you might be mentoring, giving advice on what are the ways you can improve. And depending on the situations, you might need to step into a change role, transformation mastery role. That's the role of an agile coach. With this information, any questions, type it in the chat window, please. I am not seeing counseling here. So how can Agile Coach manage all the three situations? How can you determine there is a need to step in? So thank you very much, Luck. How can I determine? That comes from self-awareness. That's come from self-awareness. If you do know for a fact that as a coach, I can teach somebody or I can mentor. As a coach, I can help them to find their own solutions. What action should I take that will help improve the quality of life of the person or the teams you're working with? That's the underlying question. How can you improve the quality of life of the people you're working with? To improve the quality of life, if your job is to teach, do it. If your job is to facilitate, do it. There's a gentleman called Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He's also regarded as the father of the nation for Indians. I'm an Indian myself. And in that, he talks about, a reporter asked him, after the independence, Mr. Gandhi, will you become the Prime Minister of India? He tells the reporter, if my job is to sweep, I will sweep. If my job is to lead a country, I will lead a country. So here at that moment of time, your job, you need to know how you need to. So how can I improve the skills? There are different training programs out there. I would recommend you to go and investigate and invest in yourself, how you can improve those skills. And I teach them personally myself as well. Let's look at what is the role of an agile coach. You spoke a role of an enterprise agile coach. We learned about agile coaching, the role of an agile coach. What is the role of an enterprise coach then? Can you type in the chat window, please? Nelson, is coach and mentor the same? They are completely different. They're completely different, but the mechanism is the same. We can take that offline and talk to you about it. But in the meantime, I had a question. What is the role of enterprise agile coach? We learned about agile coaching. So what is it? Ooh, I like the answer given by Ramakrishna. Applying the same standards across the organization, okay, bringing an alignment and change in the entire ecosystem, helping get the enterprise and business work more agile. EAC is responsible, Enterprise Agile Coaching is responsible across the organization, Beautiful answers. Helping outside the team, but the company. Who is the coach of coaches? Organization-wide transformation, business and technical agility. Wow. Amazing answers, amazing answers. If we as enterprise agile coaches do not understand the business context, when you talk about business context, where do they compete? How do they play? How do they make the money? What is the processes do they have? The cultures, the structures, etc. There are so many things you need to take into consideration. I have a question for you all. If you're working in an organization, that organization has competitors, right? Your competitors, they will have people, systems, resources, all the things, whatever you have in your organization, they also have. Most of them do. The only difference is the way they deliver the value to the customer. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. So for us to understand what changes we are doing, we need to understand the current state of the nation so that we know we are addressing the right problem at the right time, because you're looking at the entire ecosystem. You're looking at the entire ecosystem. When we are looking for enterprise agile coaches, these are like, I love cameras. This is one of my favorite cameras. It's like, they're like this amazing cameras. They focus on the important issues, zoom out to get a broader perspective, zoom in again to engage and take actions. When you're talking about taking actions, working with your stakeholders, it can be your leadership, or it can be your teams you're working with, or it can be external companies. So you need to work with them. You need to look at the systems view, the end-to-end, because that helps us to make some changes effectively. Remember, we are living in a volatile, uncertain, complex environment, ambiguous environments. That's called VUCA. We live in that environment. We are currently sustaining it. England right now, which I live right now, it's my second hometown. We are going through a third lockdown. I can't even meet my friends or my family members who are next to me, close to me. It's quite a depressing state. That is the reality. That is the reality. When we are living in that reality, we need to adapt to the situations around us. How do we do it? So we need to have a systems view. And that's very important for enterprise coaches, as well as the leaders. Let me see if I can play this video. Nah, I can't play this video. If I can, it's an example of my early days of my enterprise coach. It was one of my early days, how I felt as an enterprise coach. I wish I can share this. For some bizarre reason, it's not playing. So enterprise agile coaches, these are some of the things they are responsible for. Because if you're looking at a team level, so you got the agile, you're working with your teams, and you're teaching them, you're training them, you're mentoring, coaching, you're helping them to create a purpose, you're helping them to create a sense of urgency, why we exist as a team, and help deliver value to our customers, as well as the employees they are working with at the team level. At the project level, sometimes you might be working in a hybrid. Hybrid says some of them can be waterfall, some of them can be agile, some of them can be different things, because an external organization, they might be working their own ways of working. So you might need to work with them if you're working at the program level or the portfolio level. But the enterprise level, you might need to work with different entities in your organizations, because you're looking at across different departments, across different teams. Because at the organization level, you're also designing the way, the organization structure to implement a successful agile transformation. And you take whatever frameworks out there. Last time I counted, there are 39 different frameworks, agile frameworks, such as Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Six Sigma, SAFe. There's a framework called Look at Other Frameworks. I am not kidding. The framework is called Look at Other Frameworks. It's so funny. It's amazing. And as we speak, there might be someone else who's creating a framework. And these frameworks are not complete by design, because that needs to be adapted and tweaked so that you can work with your culture, work with the teams, work with the projects in such a way it delivers some value. We can't just lift and shift and copy paste it in such a way that Scrum says this, we're going to do this. It has to be configurable, tweaked, because one of the important values of Agile is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. These frameworks, they are processes. Scrum is a process. And Agile talks about individuals and interactions. See what works for your team and configure it and tweak it in such a way that delivers values. So at enterprise level, there are few things you need to work on. Advanced form of Agile coaching, because we looked at the Agile coaching, we looked at facilitating, coaching, mentoring, training, Agile Lean practitioner. This is an advanced form of Agile coaching working at the enterprise level, which also means you're working with the organization culture. Cultures is very interesting. As a country, we have a culture. As an organization, we have a culture. Within the country, there are subcultures. And people who join our team, these are individuals. They're coming together and they are creating microcultures within the organization. So that's a very complex task. So that you need to understand more about human beings. How do they work? How do they adapt? Understanding the cultural change. If you're working in a global organization, some vocabulary which might be right in United States might be completely irrelevant in England and can be completely irrelevant in Malaysia. So you need to take everything into consideration. What are the things, what are the ways of working, what is the right thing to do, and what is the not so right thing to do, and be aware about those. And you got and as an enterprise coach, you're also helping build leaders in the organization and helping teams to get better in what we do, and having the strong team culture and understanding the complex systems, because they need to be adapted as we move along. And also improve some of the technical practices. Or if you're talking about technical practices, it can be related to technical mastery, or it can be practices which relate to the frameworks. Some of the practices, for example, in lean thinking, you need to understand about flow. You need to understand about value stream mapping. What is the flow of information from one end of the system to the other end? What is my cycle time? What is the cost per transaction? How long does it take for a project to get from a start to end? So you need to be aware about these little practices that helps you to understand the systems, the processes, the business processes, or the flow of information in our organization. This is a high level of primary differences. There are many, but these are primary differences. For Enterprise Agile Coaches, is focusing on the Agile transformation. For a coach, it's mainly Agile adoption. So there are two different things here. So when you're working with your teams, you're explaining to them about the frameworks or the practices or the new ways of working. At the enterprise level, you might be working on the business processes. You might be working at the organization structures. You might be working at financial budgeting. They are different things you need to take into consideration. You're focusing on the business agility. Agility is the adaptability of at a given situation. How quickly can we adapt? How many of you heard about Titanic? It doesn't float anymore right now. It hit a massive hurdle. A massive iceberg was there. It was not able to move around, and it sunk. An organization, if it's a massive organization like Titanic, it cannot adapt very quickly. We need to create within the organizations, have mini startups in such a way that if there's any threat, as an entire organization, there's an armada of ships which can navigate very quickly instead of one big giant trying to navigate through the rough seas. It's easy to navigate, it's easy to improve. And working directly as an enterprise coach, you'll be working directly with senior leaders, executives, directors, even the CEOs, helping them to come up with the organization strategy, and can act as a scrum master for the leadership team. I work with few organizations, and even the CEO is part of a team. He has his own scrum team. I'm a facilitator. Even leadership, it's when you're talking about leadership, it's a monkey see, monkey do business. As a leader, I don't need to do anything. Agile is for my teams. Does it work? Does it really work? How can we really improve the way we work? Because Agile is not for me as a leader. It's for everybody who works under my organization. It doesn't work. Because as a leader, you need to be the driving change. And how do you coach that leader? How do you help that leader? That falls into the role of an enterprise agile coach. And these are simple, similar differences, and there are more. And there are a few things I want you to take into consideration. And these are some recommendations I have where if you want to look at how do I become an enterprise agile coach, understanding the agile coaching competency. What are the things which I need to become an agile coach? So which mastery should I pick one? Can I develop on the existing skills and improve and get better? And also understanding what is the role of an enterprise coach? What are the skills that are required to become an enterprise coach? And how do I change? How do understanding change and how to adopt and adapt? There are different kinds of change models. If you're trying to bring a new way of working, helping people to give that awareness, why do we need this change now? And how is it going to help us to get better? Bringing that kind of an awareness. As individuals, everybody is there for their own selfish reason. If something new is coming up, what is it going to do? What is in it for me? For me to adopt this change, how is it going to help me? Whenever you try to bring some change in, people always look at it as like, is it going to help me or is it going to be a threat? So you as a coach, you are trying to reach out to the desire, internal desire of this human being, and finding out how is it going to help them as they move along. And providing the knowledge. Once you're able to reach out to the desire, you need to provide the knowledge and the skills for them to move to the new ways of working. That means that you might be teaching about value stream mapping, you might be teaching about Scrum, you might be teaching about different concepts. And when these people are building and learning, okay, I've learned the skill, I learned this concept, now I need to improve it. While I'm trying, things might go wrong. When things might go wrong, as a coach, you need to help them, to support them through the journey as well. Okay, things you fail, that's okay. So what are the things we can do differently to make it better? So you're teasing information, you're helping them to build that kind of an ability, and understanding how this new ways of working is helping me to get improvement. That's called reinforcement, positive reinforcement, and help them to make the changes stick. In some of the organizations I've worked, I've seen this. An agile coach comes into the organization, everything is rosy and cozy, amazing for the 3 months or 6 months. When the agile coach moves on to the new team or a new department, things go back. Why does it happen? Because you need to create a sticky changes that can stick for longer. For that, you need to build that capability within the teams to build those high-performing teams. That kind of a skill, knowledge, you need to build those into the teams. And you also need to understand what about the measurements, key metrics. What are the key metrics which will help us to deliver better? It's not like because reading a book, these are the metrics we need to have. Asking the question, how do we get better? And what kind of metrics would help us to get better? That's called measuring what matters. And how do you deal with resistance? And how do you deal with those conflicts? And how do you bring people together? And work, sometimes when you're trying to bring a concept in with your leaders, say, nah, it doesn't work for me. Trying to understand why it doesn't work for you, and is there a way you can negotiate, at least try something different. For that, you need to have your people and negotiation skills. So these are some of the recommendations I have for you. And for these recommendations, we have one big document with list of questions. These are questions I have. What I would do is, after this webinar, we will post you a link. You can download all the list of questions for each of those topics. What you see right now is 11 topics. For 11 topics, we have a set of questions. If you're able to answer the questions, you might be able to be, you can ask yourself, am I in the right direction? And you can also use it as interview questions for enterprise coaches. Those are the questions I ask. So see if it helps you. So I will be able to drop a link at the end of the session. I'll be more than happy. So how do you build high-performing teams? I wish I can explain to you. That will be a little bit more as an agile coach. I would recommend you to look at some of the webinars we have done how to build high-performing teams. Murali, I'll be more than happy to share those links as well. So to be successful as this enterprise coach, you need to be very authentic. And again, it comes from your self-awareness, self-management, and you need to have fun. If you can't do those two things, I don't know what else I can tell you. These are the two key ingredients, what you need to have. What you need to have. That's the most important thing. So let me ask you a few questions. So you don't need to share with anybody. This is your own internal dialogue, or if you've got a pen and paper handy. So draw this diagram on a piece of paper and put a dot. Where were you 5 years ago? Look at as the Agile Lean practitioner, or teaching, mentoring, professional coaching, facilitating, or look at the 3 masteries. Where were you 5 years ago? Put a dot. If you're working in Agile Lean practitioner, put a dot there. Were you teaching your teams? Put a dot there. That's okay. I'll give you 30 seconds. Quickly put some dots there. Good. Green dot, where are you right now? So 5 years ago, if you're an Agile Lean practitioner, so where are you right now? Mark yourself. And the next question I have for you is, where do you want to be in the future? Remember, there are no right or wrong answers. When you look at the data, these are the few questions I have for you. How does that inform you what you're doing today? How does it align to your learning goals for the next 12 months? The next question I also have is, do the dots tell you a satisfaction story about yourself, where you're going? And the next question I have is, what does help look like to you? So for you to be where you want to be, what does help look like to you? Type it in the chat window. Let's see, what does help look like to you? Type it in the panelists and attendees view. What does help look like to you? Mentoring, self-learning videos, books, and practice? Yes. Start with something, do something. First thing is, you coming to this webinar is doing something. That's the most important thing. From here, what would be your next action? That's a question for yourself. That's a question for yourself. So this is the time I'll be more than happy to take questions. I got 5 minutes before I can take some questions, and we can take from there. Is coach and mentor are the same if one can play the dual role? Yes, both. One person can play both the roles. It's not the same, they are different. In coaching, you're helping people to find their own solutions. In mentoring, you are giving those solutions where you are allowing the person to choose, where the power of choice is always to the person in front of you. Okay. So Auma, okay, Rami, sorry, I cannot pronounce your name properly. Make sure the company understands all about the Agile and Mentor Scrum teams. I don't know if it's a question, Rami. That's very important. Understanding why we are doing, that's a very important thing. I'll be more than happy if you have any other questions, because in the Q&A section, I have only 2. Oh, in the chat window. Teaching others to believe in the force of Agile. What do you think when leaders are not ready to take, what do you think leaders are not ready to take your feedback? Giving feedback. This is an interesting concept. I don't know if you have ever told a person, shut up, yaar. Shut up, man. Come on, shut up, man. Or you can use the same content. Shut up, man. It's not what you say, it's also how you say it. And for that, you need to build a rapport with your leadership team. You need to build relationships. That comes down to soft skills. How you act, how you work with the teams, and how knowledgeable you are, those really help you. So let me see, is there any other questions? Any books you recommend for transformation mastery? I would recommend you to look at the different kinds of change models. There's tons of literature out there. I would recommend you to look at the Coach's 8 steps. XLR 8 Coach has created in 2014, the XLR 8 taking Agile into Agile into the entire structure of the change steps. It's amazing. And you've also got the UDCR. UDCR is a great framework, change framework. There are multiple frameworks. At least pick one to start with. Pick one to start with. Okay, let me see the Q&A. What are the powerful questions as an Agile coach supposed to ask? When you say powerful questions help you to think, help you to explore the topic in such a way that you can look at the different angles. Questions can give you a different perspective. That's what powerful questions do. If there's a question of yes or no, that doesn't help. If you are giving a question where it's an open-ended, that helps a person to explore more. There are different kinds of powerful questions. Actually, we have a handout, which if you can reach out to us at hello@Leadership Tribe, I'll be more than happy. Krishna, can you tell about, okay. So let me look at this one. What are the powerful questions supposed to ask? Okay, on one of my colleagues will drop a link for the in the panelists and attendees view. Please take a look at it. There's a link for the questions for Enterprise Agile Coach. You can download the document and take it from there. Ashik or Devante, can you paste that link in with the rest of the attendees, please, if you don't mind? Okay. Okay, can you explain some more non-violent communication? So far, how you work yielding brought into the revenue? Why we need to change? We don't have the data about organization, how to deal with this situation. Nels, Usha, I would love to explain to you on this non-violent communication. I'm just being conscious of the time. I would love to answer Nelson's query here. Before you can make any change, before you go on a journey, you need to check the current state. Say, for example, if you're taking your entire family on a holiday in your car, you just don't wake up and jump in the car and drive. So you need to understand Do I have enough fuel? How far I'm going? Do I have all the things which is required for all the passengers? You got snacks, water, you check everything. You do the current state of the nation. You have a current state of the nation. Once you're able to understand the current state of the nation, as you are moving along, what would work for you? If you have taken one change, you need to understand is it helping me or is it taking me back? So data is very important. Understanding the current state is very important because that will help us having that kind of a visibility for the entire team that will help us to get better. We got 10 minutes before we can end the session. Let me look at any other questions. You say that handling executives with fixer comes with under soft skills, but it's not the prime skill to be an EAC and make sure the executive runs well. You can say that. Building a rapport is one of the most simplest things. The only reason it builds trust. As an enterprise coach or as an agile coach, you're talking about agile is the new way of doing. Agile helps us to get better. Some of the leaders you work with, they have heard agile, right? They know you, but they haven't seen it. They haven't felt it. Because more or less you're becoming like a salesperson. Agile is this, agile is that, blah, 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 blah. If you're not able to have the basic trust with the people you are working with, would they even listen to you? If you don't trust someone and if they are able to tell you about something, would you even listen to them? I will not. Trust is a very important thing. Patrick Lencioni talks about it. The first thing, the 5 dysfunctions, the first thing is the absence of trust. When you're working as an enterprise coach, as an agile coach with your team, trust is the basic thing. For help you to build the trust, you need to build a rapport. Simple things. How do you build a rapport? That's a question you need to ask yourself, my friends.